I'm Reggie Young. I was able to build a six-figure business online in my free time. In this video, I'll be sharing some tips and tricks and some software that will help you work remotely more effectively. So let's get to it. The first thing you want to do is over-communicate. So realize that whenever you're messaging someone, what you're saying is taken with much more magnitude. Notice the exclamation point here. It seems much more powerful. If you just say the word thank you with no exclamation point or no happy face, sometimes that can be taken as they're not actually as thankful. So realize when you say thank you or when you direct someone to do something or ask something of someone, realize that it can be taken different ways, and it's important to take that into consideration. When you're messaging other people, it's also important to respond with the next steps, right? So don't message someone and say, hey, are you there? Question mark, right? You would rather do, hey, here's what I have. Here are the steps that I think you should do next. Are there any questions? That's a great way of starting out a communication channel, because when you start with, are you there or are you available, they have to respond and they may not be on that actual communication channel yet. So always give the person the next step, batch all your communications together so it's easier for you guys to communicate one after another. You don't have to communicate one sentence at a time. You can batch your communication. And when you're doing that, it's also really important to proofread right before you send that message off, because you can't correct yourself mid-sentence like you would person to person. You also want to work off the cloud. It's important to have things centralized so that you can easily share information between companies, between people within your company, and realize that not everyone uses the same software, but when you have everything in a localized location, it's much easier to save files and keep them up to date instead of always trying to upload files and wondering where things are. People on your team or who you work with can easily go towards the location of the file where they know it's at and grab the most recent file. And with that, leverage software. There's all types of software you can use, and you could even download the mobile versions of them so that when you're out and about, and if you still need to be connected to your workspace, these mobile apps can kind of help you leverage that communication. It's also important to under-communicate. You don't want to have too many communication channels open at once because you'll be flooded with messages left and right. So realize what communication channels you need open to accomplish the task at hand, and then when that task is done, remove that communication channel or keep it off to the side if it's not a priority for you. All right, let's hop into some software. So as I mentioned before, cloud services are really great. I recommend Google Drive for almost every single business. If your business is more private or can't use Google Drive, I guarantee you there's a cloud solution for everyone. So look into that for what's best for your business or for your workflow. Also leverage some type of project management software. Because you're not near each other or you may be working online, it's a lot harder to organize yourself and communicate. So I'll quickly dive into a project management tool here that I love. A really basic one is Trello. You can make one for each project, each business. Here's a great way of using project management tool in a very basic but very powerful way. You can have a column here called your to-do list. Add a new task. So let's just call this one task 1, right? For example's sake, you can add a detailed description, add links, add members, due dates, all kinds of really cool things. And you can move that task from your to-do list to your priority list, reorganize them. Somebody, whether it's you or somebody else, can review that task, kick it back into priority if it's wrong or needs editing, and then afterwards move that task from review to complete. So there's a lot of really cool things you can do with this, and it keeps people on the same page while also minimizing notifications. If you're working with 3 people at once or on a team or just for yourself, it really helps keep you organized and helps to keep the communication flow very, very fluid. Also, video software. Set your default settings to have your microphone and video set to off. You'd be surprised when you open it up and you enter a meeting, you're not actually ready, and someone catches a view of you that you may not be all that happy about. So just have that set to off. It also helps whoever's in charge of the room not to be bombarded with a bunch of noise or video or interruptions that they're not meant to have at that time. Also, wear bottoms. You want to be this guy. Everybody can tell that he looks very professional and presentable, but as soon as he accidentally has to get up for something, and it happens all the time, I may be guilty of it myself, you are going to give people a showing that you maybe not meant to give your boss or your client or your coworker. So just always have at least a minimum presentable appearance from top to bottom, and that'll save you some embarrassment, trust me. Next is audio software. I love this software. They have a free and paid versions. It's called Krisp. It's like magic, I swear. It removes a lot of the noise in the background. So I actually have the TV running in the background. You probably don't even hear it. It can actually remove birds chirping or sudden claps or snaps that you may or may not hear normally. But with this tool, it removes a vast majority of that background noise, just makes it sound much more professional. And they also have a mobile app, so definitely look into Krisp. I also really, really love these auto uploading messaging platforms. So what I mean by that is as you're communicating or as you're creating the content, it will upload that content to a cloud and create a link that you can share immediately. Anyone that you want access to that link just has to click on it and they can immediately see the content you had created. So you can do that for video, audio, and even photo, depending on how you want to communicate. So I'll jump through each one of those. Screencast is a great one. They have their free version, allows you to do 15 minutes worth of screen recording, and it's a great tool. They have their free version. For here, Otter, I love this one. It's an audio message. As soon as you start talking, it starts to transcribe your message in real time, so you can go back instead of listening to an audio message and trying to find specifically when they talked about something. You can go and click on the word and immediately start going back to the voice note of where that person was talking, and then of course, like I said, share a link. They also have some for photo. I love Lightshot, super quick Chrome extension, and you can take a screenshot, add recordings, text, or call out boxes and share that screenshot very, very quickly. For blocking off times, to instead of saying what time are you available, 15 minutes if you're in different time zones, the free app called Calendly is a great tool. Also, Facebook News Eradicator. I can't tell you how many times I personally found myself scrolling through Facebook and wasting so much time. And using this free Chrome extension tool is a great way of removing your newsfeed when you don't want it. So you automatically don't find yourself wasting time on social media. You can work when you need to, and it actually replaces the newsfeed with a quote, but still allows you functionality of the rest of Facebook. That's a great free tool, save you a bunch of time. Also, there's Google Voice. Everyone gets a free US-based phone number with their Google account, and you can route any phone number to it anytime you want, and turn it on or off, and it's a great way to have a free professional number. And because you work remotely, you might have to send a fax and you don't have a scanner. You might have to send a check. You may have to convert one file to another because one software or one person doesn't use a file type that you like. So there's a bunch of free software like that. Just type in, JPEG to whichever PNG or this file to that file in Google, and you'll find a bunch of free tools. Realize that there's a software out there for every situation that you need to work remotely. Let's talk about controlling your environment. It's best to have a dedicated workspace whenever you're working. Obviously, the best situation would be have your own home office that's, only you're there. It's perfectly set up, but the reality is not everybody has that. Say you're working from the kitchen table, right? How are you going to be able to turn your mindset off from eating or just relaxing to going into work mode? And a great tip is to always have the same setup. Go to the same chair you would normally go to work, and then when it's time to eat or relax, switch chairs, go to a different chair, have a different view. And by doing that and maintaining a dedicated workspace, not taking your laptop from your desk to your bed, from your bed to your couch, that kind of workspace transition actually prevents your mind from turning off at the end of the day, and it's more taxing long term. So have a dedicated workspace. And if you can't have a dedicated workspace, at least have the same setup over and over. Have the coffee in one area of your laptop always have your pen out, always do the same type of things that you would do to maintain a dedicated workspace. It's also important to isolate yourself. If you can, close the door. If you can't close the door, tell people, hey, I have AirPods in or music in, don't bother me. Do whatever you can to isolate yourself, whether it's facing a certain way or messaging your friends and family and saying, hey, between this time and this time on these certain days, don't bother me. And you'd be surprised how often people still bother you, but still do your best to maintain that dedicated work environment. Some equipment, as I mentioned before, noise canceling headphones are a must. They're a must. They are a must. Even if you think you have awesome discipline and the best environment, putting music on, if it helps you, can really, really help motivate you and just block out that outside world. And it also communicates to people that you're busy. So really great tip. I recommend Apple AirPods. If not, Bose makes some really good over-ear headphones. And if those are too pricey for you, the company Anker makes really, really great value headphones, and you can buy those on Amazon. But outside of headphones, I would say always have a second screen, right? And if you don't have a separate monitor, or you have one and maybe you haven't heard of using a dual screen with your tablet. Now this comes loaded free on Mac. On the newest Macs, it's called Sidecar, and you can turn your iPad into a second screen, add touch functionality, do all kinds of really cool stuff. But having a second screen reduces the switching costs of continually trying to remember either a certain phrase or language or number and going back and forth. But by having a second screen, it makes it much easier for you to make decisions without taxing your willpower. So Sidecar is great for Macs. For new Macs, if you don't have that, you use Windows or Androids, the Duet app is a great paid app that you can use for Windows and old Androids or older iOSs. All right, the next thing we're going to go into is self-discipline. Forming habits and mastering self-discipline is something you should always be trying to be working on, specifically for remote work. You want to try and form as many habits as you can. Try and stack your habits so that you're always, I start at 7:30 no matter what. When I start, I set up the same workstation. I have the coffee that I'm going to have. I create this routines of getting myself into a state of work, whether it's putting on music in the beginning, sipping down the coffee, taking breaks at specific times, wearing certain types of clothes to put yourself in a mindset, whether it's, it doesn't have to be a business suit, but if that works for you, that works for you. If it's a certain type of pajama, right? Only wear those SpongeBob pajamas when you work. Wear the other ones, the Power Ranger ones, in your leisure time. So try and create these habits, and it really helps you keep you focused. But let's be honest, we all can't stay focused all the time. And when that happens, you need to remotivate yourself. Visit the things that keep you motivated, but realize that, hey, it happens to all of us. When you see your efficiency decreasing and you realize that you just can't take it back, that's just when it's important to realize that you need a hard break. Get up, get out of your seat, take a solid 5 to 10 minute break, even longer, maybe go to the gym, then come back with a fresh pair of eyes and a fresh mind. You can also do verbal and physical cues when you're starting up and shutting down at the end of the day. Saying the words, I'm starting work, I'm done with work, closing that laptop, doing that routine for leaving work is very important, right? When you're working at a physical location, whether it's an on-job site or whatnot, you don't realize that by getting ready for work, driving through those traffic lights, walking through the door, saying hello to your coworkers actually primes your mind for work. So when you come off of work, it's kind of the same thing. Coming home, driving home, taking off your uniform or whatever you wear for work also turns off that part of your brain. So it's important when you're working remotely to set those habits, set those physical and verbal cues. Telling yourself you're done for the work, you're done for the day, you're shutting down is very, very important. Okay, here's some tips that you can use. Timertab.com, I won't pull it up, but it's a great tab that you can use to set timers and always have it up in the corner. And you can do a lot of cool things with alarms and things of that nature. So using online timers is a great tip. Use music, like I mentioned earlier. Yeah, I misspelled Spotify here. It's not Spotify, but Spotify. I really love the playlist Deep Focus. This is what it looks like. It's really low energy, keeps it really nice and calm. So I'm either using that playlist or my own dedicated playlist. I love Above and Beyond music personally, but choose music that you like and only listen to those songs, those specific songs or playlists when you're at work to build that habit, to motivate you and to put yourself in a work mindset. Try to choose music with less vocals, music that has more consistent sound. Personally, when I hear a lot of changing in tone or a lot of vocals, I actually get distracted. So try and choose music that keeps you energized and motivated and blocks out the rest of the world. That's your focus. And if music doesn't work, then don't use music. But I will say just having headphones on, even if there is no music, communicates to other people not to bother you. Deep Work by Cal Newport is a great book for teaching you the how, the why behind how to get a lot of efficient work done. Also for building habits, Atomic Habits is also a great book. But let's be honest, we all don't love reading. We don't have enough time, or maybe you don't enjoy it. A great tip is you type in the name of the book in YouTube and then type the word summary in, and you can choose your summary based off how much time you want to go over the book. 40 minutes, 5 minutes, 11 minutes, 8 minutes, maybe watch a few, and that's a great way to get a good summary of a book without actually having to read or pay for it. It's important to stay social, but when you do socialize, do it in another room, in another location, outside, whatever you have to do, socialize, but do it outside of the environment that you were originally in. Even though you think you may not actually like to socialize with other people, it is important. The more you work remotely, the more you're going to be inclusive to yourself, but we are ultimately social creatures. So try, even if you don't like people or you like being by yourself, spend at least some quality time with one person a day. You know, get that quality time in. That quality time could only take 10 minutes, it could take an hour, but find time for one person. And if you can't do that, at a minimum, you can always video chat people. But when you do video chat or communicate with friends and family, do that outside of your work channel. You may have work channels or channels that you use that your friends are on. Do your best to separate your work channel from your personal life, because you don't want the two bleeding over. You want to keep them as separate as possible when working remotely. All right, to wrap it up, don't forget, force your environment, do what you can to maintain a dedicated workspace, use noise canceling headphones, and leverage the power of a second screen. Focus on building habits and use timers to kind of structure those habit building, whether it's starting at certain times, stopping at certain times. Use them to keep you on track. Also, over communicate. Realize how you communicate is very important, whether it's through written word, video, or audio, and use the software to extend the ability for you to communicate effectively, have people look back at what you're trying to say, and do so in a much more efficient way. Stay social. Even if you don't like those coworkers or you don't like the people you work with, do whatever you can to at least spend quality time with one person, one loved one, one friend. Do that every single day. And I never mentioned this, but find gratitude in whatever you're doing, because when you find gratitude in your personal life, that will bleed into your work life. And it also helps you take care of your mindset. So find gratitude, realize that working remotely, whether you love it or hate it, has its benefits. So leverage those benefits as much as possible. Okay, what can you do next? It's your turn. First step, identify your most optimum work environment. Which side is the screen going to be on? How do you like your coffee in the morning? You know, what kind of pen and paper do you use? What kind of seating arrangement? Do you like to work, you know, in a chair, in a couch, whatever works best for you? Find that optimum environment, find that location, and do your best to protect that environment. Your location may change, but your setup may not. Do your best to find that optimum environment and protect it. Share this, if you can, this video with somebody that you know works remotely, to save them a bunch of time and lost money and frustration that I went through. And if you can, please, please, please like this video for support. Save this video. If you ever find yourself not working efficiently, come back to it and use the steps and the tactics that I mentioned in this video. And then if you can, tell me how I can do better. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you got some value out of it. And thank you so much for the support. Have a great one.